What's up, PlayStation Universe, and welcome to episode 39 of PlayStation Fix. My name is Will Robinson, and joining me this week, we got a distant friend, it feels like at this point,
Mm,
joining us back after so many weeks. We got senior editor Adam Byrne.
I'm back.
You
Yeah,
are
first
back.
one since E3, which is
Feels
pretty
so
insane.
long ago now.
But I think it's okay. I mean, we did have a glut of videos and podcasts and stuff during that one week, that condensed
Yeah,
E3 week.
you
So
got your exposure to the people.
exactly, I gave them what they needed. But yeah, like I think it's time to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, timing's always an issue, but I'm here. I'm ready to rock.
Awesome. Well, I'm just as ready as you are, and the topic we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about some of our predictions we think for the PlayStation meeting that got announced that will be happening next week, September 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Mm.
So this is where there's a lot of things that we think are going to happen. There's been a lot of big news actually, kind of leaks and things the last week or so,
Mm.
consoles and all these things that just seem to keep popping up everywhere. Um,
I think it's emblematic of the fact that Sony has really hedged all of its bets on the PlayStation brand, for the fact
mhm.
that we have Gamescom, we have E3, we have Tokyo Game Show, we have Paris Games Week, we have PlayStation Experience, and we have another one in January, as far as I know, more of a trade show. I can't remember the name though, unfortunately. And that we still need this
Yeah,
this to come, which I guess is more. It's just more to do with the timing, I guess, with responses to competitors and just kind of how the PlayStation brand is floating. I think this meeting is obviously called for, given, I guess, all the, as you mentioned, the leaks and stuff that have just been completely abundant for the past 2 months or so, just following E3. And even before E3, actually, I think the
hmm
Neo was initially, God, maybe April, maybe. I'm not really sure when it was, but
yeah.
this has been in the burner for a
It's
long
yeah,
time.
it's a good time for them to kind of rein in all the rumors and take control of everything that's going on, and really, this is their opportunity to clarify things that people have a lot of questions on, and not let rumors rule the market
Yeah,
at this point.
September is the month of clarification, especially with Nintendo and the
Yeah,
NX.
and leading up
It's,
to just into the holidays in general.
yeah, no, of course. It's just like at this stage, come on. Like I mean, even with the Slim, like Sony have been like flat and saying it doesn't exist. And it's like there's
Yeah,
units out there that people have reviewed and that
right.
websites are selling and like pre-ordering. It's just I don't know. In this age of just like ubiquitous internet and flow of information, like you can't hold these things close to your chest because they will get
hmm
out. And when they do get out, you can't just deny them flat out at this stage.
Yeah, at
It's
this
kind of
point, but
it's a new kind of a new age now for this sort of thing, and you just have to kind of roll with it. You can't kind of continue these archaic business practices by just
hmm
denying existence, like don't acknowledge anything. It's
yeah.
just it's funny though because it does happen often, and even with developers and stuff with games that they reveal, it is just kind of funny to sit back and watch it all unfold and watch the internet lose its collective shit over it.
Right, yeah, for things that really aren't going to matter at all in like a couple of weeks, and people freaking
Yeah,
out about all this stuff. I mean, in terms of just like some of the rumors or announcements or whatever, and but
yeah,
well, like you said, that it's just crazy the amount of support that Sony is in faith that they're putting into the PlayStation brand, just because of it really is the only thing that's selling well for the company as a whole,
yeah.
and it's selling on that level. So it's
And that's why I think so many people were a little bit confused when, like, even before the Scorpio leak, then subsequent reveal and stuff, the murmurs of Sony doing this Neo thing again have been for so long, and originally everybody was so kind of taken aback by, like, we're nearly four at the time we were nearly 40 million units PS4s sold, and
mhm.
why would you want to wreck a good thing, you know?
Yeah,
Obviously, we
really.
had a discussion prior to E3 about, well, I was in the boat of like it's not that harmful of a thing to do, and I think
Right.
you and Kyle and Ernest were a bit. Oh, I don't know about Kyle, but you were a bit kind of miffed by the whole idea.
Well,
But
as part of it is that the it's fine to the point where it's not splitting the consumer base. It was
yeah,
mainly that it was just kind of the initial start of it is kind of pointless, but it
mm,
has to start at some point where it will actually take off. But it really is just their answer for the uh, other VR hardware out there to make it more competitive for longer at a cheaper price.
yeah, and I mean, I think we're going to get into that. So obviously, as a to preface it, as you mentioned with the meeting, this is where the PlayStation Neo is going to be announced. So
Yeah.
I we've obviously seen leaks and stuff. We had an idea of its power and all that. I think you can still, well, let's obviously discuss in a few minutes if there's been revisions in light of Scorpio, or has it even been possible to do so when you think probably, these specs have been locked down and parts have been ordered and stuff, and R&D is kind of shut down, long before this reveal is even happening. But
Hmm. Yeah, there's no hardware changes that would have been made. I can't imagine.
I think you situate this in between the Xbox One S and the Scorpio, but leaning more towards the S. So, well, maybe in between, you have a system that is a lot more powerful, but still the disparity is not that of the Xbox One S and the Scorpio, where I still don't really believe completely that there won't be a stage where some games, I don't believe that all games will work on both systems, especially a couple of years down the line. The PlayStation, though, I think it's going to be a lot closer, that ecosystem. And the Neo just seems to be a system like the Xbox One S that has UHD capabilities and things of that nature, 4K output for video, but
Hmm.
also has the extra power boost that will be needed to help VR become a more viable option for Sony, as well as making games run better effectively and look a
Hmm.
little bit better. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I think it's going to be downplayed. I don't think this is a massive deal, and that was one of the points I stressed a while ago. I think this is just better for developers. I think it's better in the sense that parts are probably not as expensive as we've discussed previously. I mean, that's why consoles get revised. It actually somehow becomes, not somehow, it does become cheaper for Sony to make revisions to a console than to keep churning out the same archaic hardware in a system. It becomes
Yeah.
dearer because that's not as ubiquitous anymore. So it's actually cheaper for them to make a more powerful console, oddly enough. But I think that's the kind of nuts and bolts of it. I don't think the Neo is going to be a massive kind of deal as the Scorpio will be billed at next year. Next year.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna really, and you can even see on the Microsoft website or Xbox where they're for the Scorpio, it just says the most powerful console ever is what they're pitching it as. But it's like, yes, that's true, but for now, really,
Yeah, I
because the
mean,
whole thing is
like,
shifting. Like we had talked about in the past, the whole thing is shifting towards being more of like, at least in my mind, I see it becoming more like a phone industry, where there's going to
mhm,
be new, like every couple of years now, they're going to just be slightly upgrading everything and
yeah,
making sure that all of the software is still compatible across multiple systems in that cycle. Maybe not in everyone within like 7 years or something. They might have a hard deadline maybe every 5 years or something now, so that they
yeah.
can move on once new engines come out or being developed and advancing. Just because of how quickly technology is growing and changing, it's hard to keep
Mm.
up.
I mean, this game of chess between Microsoft and Sony in particular really is fascinating. I mean,
Hmm. With
Sony,
Nintendo in the stands waving their flag
well, yeah, they're different
right
entities,
now.
but I
Yeah.
still think we can get onto them a little later. I still think
Hmm.
Sony might have something to say in the handheld space at some point in a kind of in a combative stance to what Nintendo are purportedly going to do.
Yeah.
But um, I mean, with Sony's success and the Xbox One's failings, it's not failing in the sense on par selling what the Xbox 360 sold in the same time at the same time. But when it PS4 dwarfs it, at this age. So I think Microsoft's hands were definitely forced. They had to do something. I mean,
Hmm.
you could have expected a revision of the hardware like the S. I didn't think it would be as expensive and that would have 4K support video to future-proof it to a degree and maybe a slight power boost to kind of be more directly in line with the PlayStation 4. But I didn't expect them to kind of forecast the idea of the Neo and then go balls to the wall with like a vastly more powerful system and one that they announced but aren't launching until a year and a half later.
Yeah.
I think it's them just laying down the marker, but I don't think because if Sony is billing the Neo as something that it's a luxury item and it's not a necessity, I'm surprised that kind of Microsoft have chosen to, again, as I said, go balls to the wall with a new system.
Yeah. I think they want to take control of the market at this point. I think is really where they're stressing for that, and it is a perfect opportunity for them to actually try to do that. It's hard to compete with them not having a true. Well, and this is what Scorpio is going to be. Is it going to be compatible with uh, Oculus?
There's, I think there's a partnership in the works. I think that
Yeah.
in some
So
form
they'd
there
have to
already is
develop
one.
something.
I would imagine, like highly imagine that you'll be seeing the Rift on the Xbox
Yeah, you'll
Scorpio.
see. Yeah, I'm sure that you'll see something on there, but like as of right now, at least, there's. It's hard to compare where that when that would actually happen because they could have been working on that for a long time, and we just haven't heard anything about it, or they're not showing anything about it and keeping it that tight-lipped. Amazingly enough, but like we've known about the PlayStation, like PlayStation VR, for a couple of years,
Hmm.
and we've watched that whole cycle and the process and the feedback going through it. So it'd be interesting to see what type of peripheral that they're going to be creating in a new headset space for that. If it's going to be, if it'll have to be downgraded from the Oculus by
Mm.
much at all, or if it'll be basically the same thing, then are you going to deal with that excessive cost of having like a $500-600 system maybe, and then another $800 piece of equipment?
Yeah, these are all the major questions. I mean, do you go hard with it and you offer bundle? It's a
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, I can't foresee the costs of both the Rift and well, most of the Rift. I can't see the cost going down that drastically. I
Right.
mean, like
I
as
said
I said,
Xbox, they're just playing a dangerous game at this point. Where
completely.
if they want to exceed PlayStation 4 and or where Sony is at right now, they have to make a better system. But in order to make a better system, they're not being competitive anymore in a financial space, or
Yeah, and I
they
mean, you
can't
got to
be.
take those risks, but
Yeah.
I think that they might be just jumping the gun a little bit. Again, I think they might be
Hmm.
overestimating what the Neo actually is. Like,
Yeah.
if it is just a 4K machine that will help VR kind of support VR better and make games run better, it's kind of a thing of, hey, Sony, we're doing this massive leap. How do you feel now? And like Sony's like, we're not in that game. We're just doing small iterative steps. Like I don't think, I mean, at that stage, if you're spending what will probably be about like, I'm trying to, again, a year and a half, or more, less than a year and a half from now, we'll see the Scorpio release. Again, I don't see things getting so much cheaper. Like, how much do you
Yeah.
retail this console out? You're going to have to,
Cheapest at the most would be $500. At the
yeah. And
least, I
like,
would say, yeah.
what was the PS3 again? Like that
Six.
famous line, 599 US dollars or whatever, and
Yep.
like people just went insane. I
Hmm.
mean, so or Microsoft again, this is such a bold move. They're going to have to eat it. They have to sell it at a loss, presumably.
Well, they're gonna have to have major titles accompanying this when it first comes out, like huge titles that are only playable on the Scorpio. So they're gonna have like if they want it to be
But
that
then they
competitive, they
stress
divide
that
their
they shouldn't
base.
be doing. They
Yeah.
stress that it's going to be there's going to be platform parity that you can play it on the Xbox One, and it's just
Hmm. And it's
as we
just
made the
yeah.
argument before with the Neo and the PS4, like the jump isn't that substantial. It's substantial, but it's not hugely substantial. The Xbox One, or say S to the Scorpio, it's mammoth. It's
Hmm.
you're getting to the stage where when you have PS4 and PS Neo, the power of the PS4 isn't hindering the potential of the Neo too much. I mean, again, you can instead of 30 frames, you can have 60 frames. You can have better particle effects or whatever else. But
Yeah.
the gulf between the Xbox One S and the Scorpio, you literally are tethering that Scorpio, you're tethering its potential. You're not allowing it to go
Hmm.
to like you can't. They're not allowing it to soar. So
Yeah. Yeah.
again,
That's a huge problem.
it's such a bold move. I mean, if you want to show a console for like as powerful as that off, like you can't really have parity to
Yeah,
a
and that's kind
degree.
of what I'm wondering is if they're doing it as a move to try to entice developers, saying basically like this is you can create whatever you want like you can with a PC on this console. So it's like can you but at the same time there's like that technology that it already exists with PC, so it's like why would they migrate to that system to create for that system versus games that would be on the same resolution scale or anything like that as like the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as rumors came out about these iterative consoles, the first thing most people said, well, the first two things people said is kind of conjoined into one is, I just bought a console or whatever else. Why would I update them? These are usually good for years. If I
Right.
have to update it, why don't I just go PC?
Yep.
You know? And at that stage, especially if you're doing such a leap as Microsoft, I'd be asking this. I don't ask the question with Neo, but too much for
Hmm.
myself. But I'd ask the question with Scorpio, definitely.
Yeah, I guess it's just the reasoning behind it isn't as apparent as it is with the Neo. Just because we know that they're doing it as a bridge for the PlayStation Move or PlayStation VR. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's
like
I
this
mean
is
that's a
not.
really obvious thing, but yeah, this is just kind of like
I mean, it's not necessarily like a death rattle or anything else
no.
or anything like that. But Microsoft, like again, they're being incredibly bold with this, and they could really sink or swim. I mean, they it seems like they're pushing all their chips forward in this effort. Like, and the thing about it is, granted, as we said, they're Sony are dwarfing them in sales, but they still have a very competently selling console. Like
Hmm.
that is churning profit you would have to imagine. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's their ambition in part, I guess, but also sometimes you have to be realistic. Like this is a move that could definitely fall on its face.
Yeah, and it's one of the interesting things to me now is like, will this hurt? There's talk about, well, at least people have wanted this for years, and there's talk of it in action. Some action of this happening now is cross-platform play, like Street
Yeah.
Fighter Five, the beta was showing that stuff, and it's still like they're encouraging that type of stuff where you can have or they want to be. There's like a voting thing I think that's happening now where they're trying to open it up to be playable between PlayStation and Xbox players.
Yeah.
And how much would that deter developers from doing that if you have that big of a gap, like we're saying, in making that a
I mean,
reality for people?
it poses an incredible amount of problems, and as
Yeah.
well, even the cross-platform play. Like, I don't think, though it would be nice, you've got to remember Sony are a business and they're ahead, and they have no imperative to do that.
Yeah, they don't have a reason to, but it mainly be for like this would be the consumer base where it's like the consumers like Sony would be like, yeah, you can make the games cross platform if you want, if you're a developer,
Mm.
but don't waste the time of making it so that it's compatible with a system that's like far beyond or outside of where we are type of thing.
Yeah,
And
and
then
like
that's
that,
in the fan base would want to speak to that too. They would say, well, then we don't want to worry about this type of thing, or if we want to play with these people, we're going to get systems that are in the similar tier
hmm
and work off of it. So it's just kind of a that I mean that's been always been a dream, and it just kind of seems like it's still going to be a dream for the
Yeah,
most
I
part.
like. I mean, if the shoe was on the other foot and Microsoft were kind of leading us, so even just beyond like making new consoles and stuff, like I don't think so. Like Microsoft would be as open to,
No,
cross-platform play. I think PlayStation are happy enough with the few titles on PC that they share, and they have done
yeah,
since I
and
don't
they
know
do.
since Final Fantasy 11 maybe. I can't even remember what the
I think
first one
so.
was.
Yeah,
That Play Online thing,
yeah, but they do
but
that exceptionally well too. Like
yeah. So
Final
I think
Fantasy
there. I mean,
14
there's
is a
literally.
huge thing for that.
Oh, geez, of course, yeah. Like that game, you could. And I think we have devoted a topic entirely to it, like that. Just in terms of its,
Multiple times.
yeah,
We've talked about
well,
it
just
multiple
not even just
times.
not the game itself, but just
Yeah.
its turnaround and its like development history. It's nothing short of incredible. But
Hmm.
yeah, like cross-platform plays, it's still a pipe dream. Like there's no Sony don't need to do it. There's no reason for them to do it.
Yeah.
Um, it's good for kind of a consumer thing, but
Yeah. It just seems
like
like that's becoming more of a dream now than like there was a little bit of a chance for a window, and now with like if systems are going to be at this type of pace from now on, there's no way I can imagine that anybody is gonna would want their teams wasting time on trying to make something that may or may not work and the ways that they want it to on these systems when they're so drastically different.
yeah, like that. Yeah, that makes the dream
Yeah.
a little further away.
But
But
so we've got the systems that are upgrades in terms of tech
mhm.
that have been announced, but there's also like we had mentioned in the past, it's basically like the slim systems, and that we got
Yeah,
our kind of our first details leaked of the PS4 Slim, which really it's still kind of surprising to me that they're creating a PS4 Slim because I was like the PS4 is already the size of the PS3 Slim.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
just
I
kind
think
of
it's
crazy.
I think it's
But
pretty smart. I think,
it makes sense. I just was like,
yeah,
why would they need to make this smaller? Because this is smaller than, like, as the
yeah,
size of Slim.
I think,
But it looks really good from the
yeah, like
pictures that have come out.
it's not in response to the S or anything, obviously,
No,
given that it's
they
already out
yeah,
in the
they were just
wild.
gonna do it.
Yeah, and it's going to be a whole, it's available right now type thing,
Yeah.
like near definitely. But I think it's smart. I mean, we were talking before a couple of months ago again in that Neo conversation about how Sony's wording was going to be, and like its marketing spin on this whole kind of saga was going to be incredibly important, and it needs to be down to a T. And I think if you revise a console, as you mentioned with costs and stuff, they've probably made it cheaper,
Hmm.
probably removed a few little bells and whistles like the optical output, and I presume there's one or two probably things changed. I haven't actually looked into it too much. Obviously, put the 5 GHz Wi-Fi in, which is good. Which some people
Hmm.
thought that patent was going to be something to do with a handheld, but I don't think it is.
Oh.
But either way, I mean, if you announce that console and it's available now, and you can somehow replace the base model PS4 and have that console, the Slim retailing at like 249 or even 299, considering what the Xbox One S is at,
Hmm.
you'll kill it.
Yep.
And then kill it as in not kill the Xbox One S, but just kill it in terms of sales. Like
Yeah.
do it
It's
well.
just
And then I just think that like that alone, not even taking the Neo into account, puts Sony in an incredibly strong position. I mean, if they can retail a console at even 299 or again 249 would be optimum.
right.
They'll kill it in sales. And of course it's a revised hardware and things have been taken out of it, so there it has to be more cost effective. So
Yeah.
I think
That's just so mind blowing to me though. Just thinking about this is that there's going to be three PlayStation systems that are all playing the exact that can all play the exact same game, and they all look like they're going to be successful in the same space.
yeah.
Like that's just crazy to think about.
I
That
mean, they tried it on the PS1 with the PlayStation and the PS1, and there was the PSX. Nobody got the
yeah.
PSX, though. I think that was Japan only. But I mean, I think it's just it's a smart move. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
remember, like, as we get older, time seems to be going faster.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sometimes we neglect the fact that like the PS4 came out in November 2013. So like that's
Mm.
nearly 3 years old. So
Yeah.
definitely time for a revision in hardware. And I
Hmm.
mean, again, like base and premium models, they're not like a new concept. So if you have that and then the new one with the Neo, I think puts Sony in a great position because if they can retail the Neo at say 400 or at most 450, probably 450,
Yeah.
again, people will pay that. And
Hmm.
even again, I think Microsoft have jumped the gun because I don't think, by the fact that this is like there's an announcement, there's like a formal meeting for it. I don't think the rolling out of the Neo is as big a deal as people think it's going to be. I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to be marketed as a console that does all these amazing things. Sure, they're going to show games that look a little bit better or run a little bit better, but it's not going to be, they're not going to overtly try and overshadow the regular PS4. Because of course, as we've talked about before, they'll split the consumer base, and you don't
Hmm.
want that, or even not literally split the consumer base from a technical standpoint, but just from
Yeah.
from in the consumer's mind of this PS4 is so much better. Like why would I want the crappy
I
older
still
one?
kind of feel like they're gonna have some kind of random gimmick with the Neo that's gonna be like, oh, and it does this, and it like something that's
It
completely
cooks your
not,
dinner.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely unnecessary and doesn't really affect anything, but it's just one of those little, just a little
But I mean,
tack on thing.
I mean,
PS4
so
owner, PS4 Neo owners can change their name.
oh god,
What?
oh my god, yeah, the people will be buying it in their droves. But I mean, yeah, no, it wouldn't be Sony if they didn't do something
Yeah, they're
weird
gonna
and
have something
stupid.
on. Yeah,
That's why, of course, people have been talking about them like with a new handheld. It's just like,
that I really think that they're seriously working on something that's going to be like they're clearly going to learn from the PS Vita and like that was it's still such a really great piece of hardware as a
yeah.
handheld and
I
as
mean,
because
yeah. Going on to that, I guess before we can go back to the Neo, I think so too. I mean, Vita was an incredible piece of tech.
mm,
Unfortunately, it is a resounding failure, I guess. It probably still
yeah,
turned a bit of profit, but again, like the PS4 with the Xbox One, when you have like Nintendo dwarfing it, it makes it look bad. Again, people
hmm,
forget PSP is one of the best-selling consoles of all time.
yeah,
Like it sold, I think, over 50 million units, which is
Right.
insane.
And it pales in comparison to, in terms of like technical playability of games on it. Like just
Hmm.
how I remember thinking about playing games on my PSP, or I think about picking up my PSP again just to try a game on it, and I think of how painful that would be, and now it just would not be enjoyable. And it's just like that's just crazy. Where it's like that was so awesome at the time, but then this piece of hardware that is so much better in so many ways, but it just didn't have that. It really didn't have that game support that it needed. That
Yeah,
people
I
always
mean
say that.
that
Well,
this.
they're great games out there for it. It's like, yeah, there's great games on there, but they're not the games that people wanted, or that were promised to them, or the experience that was pitched.
I mean, it's changing trends as well, but like
Yeah.
even the PSP, much like the Vita when it came out, it was cutting edge. I remember even just getting Liberty City Stories and
Oh my
just not
God.
being able to comprehend the fact that I was playing a fully fledged GTA
Mm-hmm.
on a handheld. But
Yeah.
again, people look at the PSP incredibly like they look at it as a failure in comparison to the DS. That probably I can't remember sold probably about 130 million or whatever, which is obviously a lot more.
Some absurd number.
But PSP is an incredible success. So I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be surprised. Now, I don't think you have Sony announcing three consoles here and then
No, handheld would be like 2 years down the
yeah,
like two E3s or something. Maybe 2018 or 19. They might mention it.
see, it's kind of hard again because I think they're if they are going to do a handheld, I think it will be in response to the NX. So I think it will be something that
Oh yeah.
expands more on the remote play aspect of things and perhaps has a kind of like a Samsung, what's a Gear VR type thing with the
Oh sure.
Morpheus. Something like that that kind of plays to the strengths of say what the NX is going to do, which is going to be a portable console that you could take home and play and then beam back out, and it's the two in one. If Sony just have this kind of proprietary system that has some sort of VR compatibility or can be used much like the Move controllers are going to be used, but also
Mm-hmm.
has because remote play was a great success, underutilized, but when it works, like Destiny and stuff on handheld or any game was brilliant, incredible idea. So if they could use that as well, but also tie in as a general game system, but maybe not even so much that, maybe just focusing on the VR and the remote play stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then they're kind of overshadowing Nintendo. Like if they, for instance, if they enhanced that on the seven somehow, like some sort of supplementary handheld thing, like I've just mentioned, that takes the wind out of Nintendo's sales when they come out. Oh, we have a handheld that plays games on the TV, and then you can take it out, and then people will be going, well, you can do that on the Sony one, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I don't know. Like I think Sony are crazy enough to do it, and I
Yeah.
don't know how viable it is. Like what I've been like the specs of it and what it would actually do. What I was just talking about. I'm not sure the
Right.
viability of that. But again, I think Sony can't. Everything's riding on PlayStation, of course. So Sony can't just go willy-nilly with console, and like do what Microsoft are purportedly doing, just go balls to the wall. They need to obviously be smart about it. And there is definitely a case to be made that they could be smart about it with a handheld in the face of Nintendo's NX. But
Yeah.
again, you're committing a lot if you have the Neo and you have the PSVR and then you have, if you're trying to push all this content out, like the more you do, the more chance you have of failing, which
Mm-hmm.
but again, I think something that's supplementary that can work with VR, but also expand upon the remote play and just the idea of kind of phones and stuff. Like everybody plays games on their
Yeah.
phones now. I mean, it could be interesting.
That's what the handheld that really it has to serve a specific purpose, and that's kind of where the Vita sort of failed in a
Yeah,
number of ways, where it was like, oh, it can do all of these different things, but not all that well. And it's got games on it, but we don't have any of our big studios making games for it. Or it's like, or like they promise that these are console experience games that you can have on the go, and then that never flew because they couldn't get the support behind it, or like the games couldn't handle that or the system couldn't handle games like that quality that they were promising initially.
yeah. Like I
So it
think
was,
you're fighting a losing battle if
yeah,
you make the focal point of a new handheld the fact that you can play console games
right,
or like on the go. It'll work for Nintendo if it literally is a double console hybrid that like well obviously it is. We've seen the patents and stuff like that you can bring out and then you have to bring it home to use it on your TV. But if you have something that you just bring around like a PS Vita and then you have your PS4 at home, like it's less enticing to buy a PS Vita
yeah,
just to get console experience on the go. Like that doesn't fly with people anymore. Because I mean,
right,
like even just like anecdotally being on like transport and stuff, like I barely even see people play a 3DS, let alone a Vita. It's always obviously just phones. So I think you've got
Hmm.
to just come at it in a different way. You have to create something that complements kind of Sony's ethos at the moment with VR and remote play and stuff, but also is more conscious of the mobile market and maybe try to play to those trends.
It would be really funny though if they did make a thing, if they did make something that was VR on the go.
I mean,
Just to, I
again,
mean,
Samsung Gear.
right, but I mean, just to see people doing that more in public would just be really entertaining.
Oh God, yeah, Jesus. Like I wouldn't even bring a console outside really, so the idea
Yeah.
of bringing virtual reality thing outside is a bit,
Hmm.
oh, I don't know.
I
But
mean, if they that's got to happen someday, where they have basically Pokemon Go filters.
God, I deleted that damn app.
But I mean, that's got to happen where
Oh
instead of
well,
like your
yeah.
phone buzzing or whatever, you're looking around, you can actually see them in the world as you're walking around. You see like it'd be like a Google Glass type of thing or something where you have like,
Oh,
you
absolutely. Yeah,
know,
that's kind of the next step really. But again, it's just a matter of like, can you see Sony with like a slightly cautious approach? Can you see them kind of putting all their eggs in like all these baskets and like showing their hand so quickly?
yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
just a victim of timing as well. Like if you are showing a Neo console and in 6 days and obviously having to reveal a Slim that's going to be available at that moment, can you really announce another console? Especially when you have to talk about VR.
right.
And then if you don't announce anything, then like, like Nintendo is en masse, they've got the wind in their sails, they can show their revolutionary new item. So then anything you show like post that, it's gonna land a little flatter than if you
Hmm.
had otherwise.
So what do you think they'll do? Do you think they will show a demo of the Neo working on stage?
Yeah, I imagine so. I
So
think
what games do you think?
I think it's just gonna show they're gonna have like day one patches, I think, of some some really successful games on
Games that are
PS4.
already out.
Yeah, so I think you could
Okay.
honestly see because I think again you burn you again this is a marketing issue and this is really important. You cannot show like new games running better.
Mm.
Or you can mention it in passing, but you cannot show a game that's not released yet. Like look at how amazing it looks on the Neo. Of course, you have to entice people to buy it, but you
Hmm.
cannot burn. You can't. What they've been doing so far has been going obviously incredibly well, and like you do not want to just go back on all that hard work. So I imagine you'll see maybe the likes of those really key first party games are just like our big games rather, like Bloodborne or something,
Mm.
1080p running at 60, something that's an action game that kind of needs the fluidity of 60 frames a second, and then seeing maybe the likes of Uncharted with a day one patch,
Sure. Yeah.
also showing their DLC, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Something like that. I don't think you see. I think maybe you see a sizzle reel of new games coming out, but I don't think there
Okay.
might be one or two surprises. But I honestly don't think you're going to see. I don't think you're going to show. They're going to show like in the sizzle reel probably Call of Duty or something, but they're not going to show.
Mm. That's what I was kind of thinking. Was it as a realistic thing? I was kind of thinking maybe they'll show is it Infinite Warfare is
Yeah.
the name. Yeah. See that come up there just because of the party deals that they've got for
Oh
the
yeah, you got
partnership.
to. Yeah, they struck gold with that partnership, even though
Yeah.
a lot of people are annoyed by Call of Duty these days,
The
but it
other
still
thing I think
sells,
would be
still sells gangbusters.
which would just be absolutely amazing is not going to happen at all would be to show like a battle
Gex.
system of Final Fantasy VII.
Mm.
Just to just like show it just appear on screen and just like
Yeah, I mean,
jaw dropping.
I think you're gonna see Final Fantasy VII at PlayStation Experience. Kind
Yeah,
of,
oh for sure.
yeah,
I
like,
just want to see more of that game, and I would love to see that just kind of be thrown out there casually, just to see how
yeah.
everybody reacts.
I'm still worried about that damn game. I think CyberConnect have more of a hand in it than I initially thought. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
the guy was it. They did the Naruto and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think the hack games back on the
Hmm.
PS2 and all. But yeah, we'll see how that one
Hmm.
goes. That's going to be very
Yeah, I don't know how I
interesting.
feel
Either
about that
way,
one.
the internet is going to be on fire. Get the
Yep,
flame suits ready.
pretty much. Uh, well, I think that's. I don't think either of us really. Well, I don't think that they're really going to show much else or talk about
I
much
mean,
else.
yeah, there's going to be going hard on VR a bit. I mean, they're going to show probably
Yeah.
bundles. There's going to probably be a Neo bundle. I imagine the Neo comes out earliest December, latest February maybe.
Oh, okay.
Although February for a console is weird. I kind of don't want to say March if the Nintendo NX is looking to come out in March again. I think yeah, again, it's not that big of a leap, so I think there will be kind of a slightly less loud release. So I imagine it will be before the end of this year. Because I don't buy any of the idea that this has been respec'd in the face of Microsoft going all out at
No.
E3. I
Yeah,
mean,
they wouldn't be able to. They could do minor changes, but nothing hardware wise at this
yeah, like
point.
you have to imagine these consoles are like yeah, again, they're 99% have been locked in long ago. So
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like it's been. Well, if you figure like basically the last 2 months roughly is I think of like a game development is just basically shipping
yeah,
for
pretty
before a
much. I
game comes
mean,
out, and it's just like this is
yeah,
gonna
bulk
be you'd have like
QAs and
half a
stuff.
year basically for a console maybe where it's shipping like packaging and getting that ready, and it's like they've been working on this far longer than your average game.
Yeah, like
So
Sony will be working on a quarterly basis. They'd have, all their bells and whistles kind of figured out for the next, 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months,
mhm.
like hard pressed plans that aren't going to shift. And these would be in that bracket. I can't see them changing it too much because it's
Mhm.
not that big of a leap. As I said, I don't think they're going to bill it as one. So I don't understand why they would bother respecing it. Like
Yeah.
Microsoft is the one going like, oh, look what we're making. But I don't think Sony was ever in the market to do that.
Mhm.
So this is just to supplement PSVR and make some certain games run a little better because there's been issues with that in the past. But
Right.
beyond that, I think it's being overblown, especially by Microsoft.
Yeah, it's
Who I guess again have to kind of their hand has been forced. They have to do something drastic to kind of try and
mhm.
you know pull it back in their favor. But
Yeah, I was looking back on this before. We were talking about having thinking of it coming out later. If it came out later, it'd be like February-ish. I was trying to think of
mm,
why I thought that sounded right. It was because I made the prediction of
Horizon,
Horizon, yeah, being
yeah,
bundled, and it comes out on the 28th of February.
yeah. I
At
mean
least at
that's a
this point is
graphically
what it's said after being delayed.
it's a graphically intensive game that is pretty big,
Hmm.
so like open wise. So I mean it's possible. And I mean I don't know what it's been delayed to, but GT Sport as well has been delayed.
Oh yeah.
Probably longer than 2 months though. It is a Polyphony digital game.
Mm.
So I mean they cancelled the beta so they could get the game out in time and then delayed it.
Yeah.
So again, it wouldn't be Polyphony digital if there wasn't a couple of delays.
So what do you think of the Slim? Come out next year, later next
Oh,
year,
no, Slim I think is day one.
day one?
Yeah, I
Oh, as
mean
soon
as
as
soon
they announce it.
Yeah, no, literally, I think so, or maybe the week following because there's orders going out to retailers now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, CEX has it and stuff, and others definitely have it. Like the game is boxed. There's a console in a box, and it's being sold on eBay and stuff. So you have to imagine shipments are going out as we speak, and have done for a couple of weeks.
yeah. So that would be
So
pretty impressive.
I highly imagine it's available right now, or at the very most the following
Have they
week.
ever done that with a console?
With a console, no, I
I
don't
was trying
think
to
so.
think of
Well,
that for
the
announcements.
S was a month, I think.
Yeah, but
Um,
not ever. Like they've done
yeah,
that with games and DLC and whatever. Like little things. Yeah,
yeah,
but that would be pretty huge. Just like, and it's available now,
yeah, yeah, I mean,
and
I
everyone
think they
here at
have.
the meeting gets a free console. Look
Oh
under your
God,
chairs.
my sound whatever didn't go.
Oh
I
God.
think do we have Carl going? I don't know if he's
I
going
don't
actually.
know. I think he had said he might be
Yeah, I mean,
going
he's
out
got
that
the
way.
invite there, but I mean, I think Sony are pretty bullish at this stage. I mean, I think they
Yeah.
they can feasibly, if the console is priced right, they can drop it whenever they want.
Yeah.
And like especially, this is September, drop it now. It'll sell gangbusters up until December. It's going to be crazy. And then I'd say maybe yeah, Neo in December. You have 2, 3 good months of the Slim picking up great sales from people looking at the budget console, and then
Mm-hmm.
it'll continue to sell well at Christmas as it always would. And then the Neo comes out of Christmas. There's people with more expenditure and more expendable cash, and then there you go.
Yeah.
So if I was putting my money on it, Slim day one or the week following, and then Neo would be probably I'd say 75% chance December.
All right. I think that sounds pretty good to me. That
But
would make a
then
lot of
we
sense.
have VR October 13th. I think
Ah,
13th,
that's right. Yeah.
15th. Um, so yeah, they have to go big with that. I mean, that's another aspect of the marketing that's going to be a real, really fascinating to watch how they kind of try and spin the Neo kind of narrative into VR. And I don't
Hmm.
think they really will, to be honest. I think it's going to be just more that can be for a different time. If they're going to show VR, it's just going to try and pimp VR. Like if you're going to get new game announcements, you're going to get probably VR game announcements.
Hmm.
Anything they show on the Neo, as I mentioned, probably will just be revisions of past games.
By the way, what do you think the Neo is actually going to be called? Because that's the code name. And I
Yeah,
totally like took that for granted while we were talking this whole time. But I was like, they're actually going to call it something else.
yeah, it's because we've been talking about this damn console for like 5 months. Um,
Like, I can't imagine they do 4.5 because that doesn't sound good.
the PSX. Yes.
Or
I
maybe if
don't
they
know
did
actually.
just drop it, well, if they no, if they said PS5, then that would create an even bigger PR
Yeah, I think
nightmare
it could
for
be just a single letter thing, much like the Xbox One S.
PS4K. Do you think they'd actually go with it?
Again, I don't think that I mean it tells you exactly what it does, but
Hmm.
I think for the general populace, I don't think those words really matter too much. I mean, Barbara down the road didn't think about HD TVs until she saw they were cheaper in Walmart in 2009, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't think the general populace would really care or really kind of it wouldn't enter into their conscience. I don't think it
Or
really
it could be
matters.
just like the PS4 Plus.
The PS Plus, yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
think
got
it
to be
could.
something that indicates that it's slightly better than the base console, but it doesn't. But it's not a different
It'll
console.
probably
That's
be
the
some
challenge.
stupid like Latin symbol or some Roman symbol that like is unpronounceable, like just Sony being weird with their Vita stuff
I
and
was
like
gonna say, yeah, we got the
Vita means
Vita.
life.
Yeah, Vita. I don't know
Like
what
I
the
like the
next one.
name of the Vita, but
Yeah, but
but
that's partly probably what hurt the PlayStation Vita a lot was the name.
yeah, I think mostly it was yeah, there's a few things they did wrong, and also I just think like changing trends in the world kind of
Hmm.
made it doomed to fail. Because obviously Sony or Nintendo always offers something a little bit different, so they kind
Yeah.
of and they have that traditional backing of just Nintendo handhelds always. So,
Hmm.
but I don't know what it'll be called. Again, I think it'll be something simple. I mean, I don't think it's going to be PS4K, but it'll be probably something single letter slash digit slash something.
Right. Yeah. All right.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Well, we'll all find out next Wednesday, September 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when it'll kick off, and we're gonna
September
watch that.
7th?
7th. Yep.
Did you say September 11th there?
Oh, so no, September 7th.
Oh, okay.
I kind of mumbled a little bit when I was there. Yeah. No,
We
September
got the
7th,
idea.
next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to watch that next week. And after that, we're actually going to be recording next week's PlayStation Fix episode with our reactions to the show and what happened and all that
Hot off the
stuff.
press.
Yeah. And then that'll go up the next day, immediately following on Thursday. So look forward to that. Thank you for joining me this week, Adam, giving our
Anytime.
predictions.
Anytime.
Yeah. I have to be on a lot more than just once every 3 months or whatever is.
I'm trying to get weekly. We're trying to make it work. Of course, don't forget to stay tuned to PSU.com, which will have all the information next week as it
Hmm.
hits all that juicy info
Yeah,
and
a
see
lot of
how
stuff.
right or how wrong we were.
Yeah, we'll see. And then
That's the funnest part of it all.
keep track of our Twitter and Facebook pages. Facebook is just going to search for PlayStation Universe. Twitter would
Mm-hmm.
be psu.com, all spelled out. So PSUDOTCOM.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like Adam said, PSU.com for all the news you got on there. We got our Twitch channel at PSU Live and our YouTube, which is PS YouTube. Check out our content that goes up on there on a regular basis now.
And of course, Twitter handles, I think you're at will2game.
Yep.
So it's TO game.
Mm-hmm.
Then Adam underscore PSU. Very simple. I probably will have to change that at some point when I'm older. I don't think you can though.
I don't
It's
know.
always dodgy
Maybe.
when you use something like
Well,
that. But
Kyle changes his.
oh, does he? Can you do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I
I gotta
believe so.
use it more. I barely use Twitter.
I know I don't either much, but
Oh well, it's always good to pimp it.
that's true. Yeah, if you guys follow us, we'll be more likely to use our Twitter account. So, and always make sure to send the questions if you got any on our podcast. Anything you want us to talk about, tweet at us or
Literally anything.
yeah, and let us know what you think. Leave comments, leave a review on our iTunes page for PlayStation Fix. And yeah, I guess that's it. So was this episode 39? Thanks for listening to episode 39 of PlayStation Fix, and
Lucky for some.
yeah, lucky for some. And join us next week on episode 40. Actually, kind of an appropriate four number for our
4K, yeah.
yeah. Maybe it'd be PlayStation 40. That'd be kind of
Oh
weird.
God. Doomed to fail.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, thanks for listening to this episode, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Bye.